Hi, Cynthia.
Um,
How are you doing today? Good.
yeah, yeah. I'm doing good. It's been beautiful out here. I've been in the garden planting seeds and
Oh, lovely. Yeah,
spring.
we've had gorgeous weather, gorgeous Mardi Gras weather too. So that's been nice. We've been
Yeah, is that what you have on
Yes, it's
Friday?
all festive. Yes, all the parades
Oh,
are
it's
happening
beautiful.
just outside of my house. So
Oh, how nice. You're so lucky.
being a little festive today.
Good, good.
I think it just has my,
All right. There you are.
I can hear you. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I
you
can
can hear me.
We're
I
having
can
our
hear
Gen Z
you.
son try and fix it.
The Gen Z son is fixing.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to.
Excellent. I have two of them. They're very useful.
Wait,
In such
let's see.
things.
Can I drag it over here?
Can you hear me? You can hear me, Stephanie,
I
right?
can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, so
Do you know how to move from that screen to the screen?
I
We'll
don't,
drag it across.
because it's on, right now it's showing up on my desktop. Well, maybe I could just,
I'm very pro the idea of just like closing the call and then trying to open it on the screen. Why is it connected to that anyways? If you disconnect the HDMI from that, it'll probably force it to go to a different screen anyways.
you know how to do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and mute it so you don't have to hear us.
Hi. Are we back? Or am I here
Yeah.
for the first time?
That
Okay,
worked.
thanks, Rita. All right, let me try to adjust the volume.
I'm gonna grind some beans if you want to.
He's gonna grind some beans.
Mom.
You've earned it. Oh my goodness.
You know what I mean? Or do you need
I know how to mute. Thanks.
Not...
Do you know how to mute, or do you need help with that too? He said.
All right, here it comes.
It's all good. We're
I guess I could mute the.
oh, let me you. All right, we're gonna welcome everybody. Thank you for being early. We're going to give everyone a couple minutes still to arrive. If you you are completely fine as you are. If you happen to have a cloth or something nearby, an old t-shirt or a new t-shirt, anything, just something that's not you, not your hand, that can be nice. And maybe something that's a little pricklier, like a fork or a retractable pen kind of thing.
I think we
So-
have the same kind of pen.
Yeah,
It's a Pilot G2.
it is a Pilot G2.
These are my favorite.
Sweet. Um, Welcome, welcome. I would love for everybody again to put in the chat what you're looking to get out of this, like what your goals are, what you would, where you need help with, what your questions are about religious, authoritarian, and institutional trauma. All right, I just muted everybody, so Stephanie, you might have to unmute yourself then. So I'm going to.
Hey y'all, I'm figure this out. Sarah. I love that Sarah's all cozy.
Yeah, I know she does look super cozy.
Really does. That's like all I want to do. Like I wake up in the morning and I plot when I can next be doing what Sarah's doing. Like my whole existence is like oriented towards when I can like be cozy and sit and lay down. I'm just very a horizontal person.
That's so funny. I'm a little embarrassed because I usually like to be prim and proper on my Zooms, but on a Sunday afternoon, this is what you guys get.
Yes.
Yeah,
Love
no,
it.
it's perfect. It's perfect.
Some
perfect,
inspiration.
yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna try a little more. We're gonna try and be a little bit less formal than last time, and I recognize that I am not. I know that I am very used to teaching clinicians, so I'm going to try to be less technical. And Stephanie's very good at keeping me.
Well, because I listen to
honest about
clinicians
that.
all day for work, and I'm like, how do I get this filtered into my little peon plebeian brain? Yeah, so I think we make a good team if I kind of do the filter.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started so that we can also try to contain it to an hour. It's Mardi Gras. We're in the thick of Mardi Gras here in New Orleans. I live just off the parade route, so I'm headed out to parades after this, but I thought I'd dress a little festively for everybody here. I want to just reiterate, like I think I am familiar with most of you at least that are here, at least in name, but know that like I'm going to post the rules for participation here. We want this to be a safe and supportive space. If there is belittling and, oh, hold on, it's too many. If there is problematic behavior, like we're just not going to tolerate that. So, and know that you are here for, like, we want you to make this yours. We want this to be radical responsibility for you and your own experience. We want you to leave feeling better than you showed up. If something goes sideways, because trauma is trauma. And so if something goes sideways for you, please just reach out to me. These are very gentle exercises. They're not going to upset the apple cart, especially because starting at your feet is incredibly powerful. So, and we're going to talk about feet today. And starting at your feet is the safest place in terms of your body and your fascia and your nervous system to start recovery, period. And in the great clock in the sky, the sun is in Pisces, and Pisces has been long associated with the feet. So we're going to talk a little bit about foot symbolism and meaning, but please, yeah. And if anyone has a good, let me know if you've ever had foot pain, foot trauma. I have a whole, my mother and my grandmother have a whole mother line of foot trauma drama that I think has really showed up in my body in some pretty fascinating ways. And yeah, so please feel free to put questions and stuff in the chat, and we will absolutely answer them as we can. This is a little smaller group than last time too, so that makes it a little bit easier. But I think first I want to just throw out a definition of religious trauma, just so that there's just to kind of set the intention, or like, and sometimes you don't realize, like, I never really thought about my not being forced to mouth the words inquire growing up as religious trauma. Like, it took me a long time to go, oh, that probably falls in that box. And there's actually no official diagnosis code for religious trauma syndrome yet.
Yes. I think that we can make a case.
Oh, I think you could totally make a case. And at the end of the day, religious trauma is trauma. It tends to be, the reason it's different than, it does have some unique neural signatures. It's closer to complex PTSD, like more complex trauma in the brain, than it is to other trauma, because you are just, when you're in religion and it's in your belief system, like you are swimming in it. And it really inhabits every aspect of your life. And
I was really
Okay.
activated this morning. My daughter going back to college, she was here for the weekend and trying to get out of the house on time and couldn't find a certain cable because someone had used it to charge. And I felt like I was 7 or 8 and I was getting scolded for being late to church. And I was very aware that this was happening, but I didn't do it. I wouldn't say I did a great job handling it this morning. And I had, some apologies were made by me to some other people I live with, but I just could see, at least while it was happening, like, I'm not 50 years old right now. I'm 7, and there's something tied to church and urgency up in this. So I was like, I'm glad I'm having this little meeting today with people who understand what's happening.
And I think I would say, no matter how much of this work you do, like, you will always, like, I know that, very much of the time when I'm talking to my parents, that I am 5 years old or 7 years old on the inside, and that my stage fright that I still struggle with sometimes in front of them, or when I really, like, I recently set a big boundary with my mother, or said something, really held my own space in a conversation, and my immune system, like, was like, oh, no, 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 we're not having this. Like, and I spent a couple days, like, on that, like, feeling like I might come down with something. And I have had a long history of actually coming down with something after those kinds of conversations. But it was, but I didn't this time, which was a huge win. But I know that when I say those things to my mother, that's my 5-year-old reclaiming her voice, or my 7-year-old reclaiming her voice, not my 53-year-old doing that.
See, it feels so much better to hear that someone else, is there too. So
yeah. And when you see other people behaving in certain ways in the news or in the media, different in different places or in your lives, like, they're also acting from their inner 5-year-old self. Okay, so here's a definition of religious trauma, and then we'll talk about why starting with the feet is really important. But religious trauma is the physical, emotional, or psychological response to religious beliefs, practices, or environments that overwhelm an individual's ability to feel safe and secure. So whatever compromises your sense of safety, and I would extend that to say that it even it will compromise your sense of safety or compromise your ability to experience pleasure, would be the other way to look at that. It might not necessarily make you feel unsafe, but it might cut you off from what feels pleasurable.
Medical diagnosis, anhedonia. Am I pronouncing that correctly? It's the inability to experience pleasure. I only learned about that recently, but I kind of immediately wondered if that would be a trauma response. Just those synapses get cut off early.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's another I'm not going to pull the name of it out of my hat right now, but there's the what I talked about a little bit last time, like when you have like a lack of, like in the way that religious trauma affects your brain, and you end up kind of with a lack of will, or it like takes away your will. But it's not depression, like that also gets tied with a lack, with difficulty experiencing pleasure. Like it interferes with your reward circuits, period. All right. It occurs when religious experiences are stressful, abusive, or damaging to one's physical, emotional, mental, sexual, or spiritual well-being. This trauma can stem from prolonged exposure to authoritarian religious environments, specific traumatic incidents, indoctrination inducing guilt, shame, or fear, or the experience of leaving a controlled religious community. It can lead to symptoms similar to PTSD and often involves power imbalances and coercive control. And so, anyway, I just wanted to put that out there so that we had kind of a working definition of that. And, sometimes when you hear the definition, you go, oh, like it can just bring up some awareness for yourself. So anyway, because it's Pisces season, and Pisces is so long associated with the feet, and there's a lot of religious stories and traditions around feet. Certainly in the Bible, foot washing in biblical times was a big tradition, and the Catholics might have to correct me on this, but I think it was Mary, got storied as Mary of Bethany pouring perfume on Jesus's feet. And in the Indian traditions, like your guru, it's very, very often with the guru, you'll touch their feet upon like completion. Like I sometimes go to a Kalari retreat. Kalari is an Indian martial arts retreat, and we do that. Like when you're saying goodbye, you're leaving the exercise routine for the morning, that we have a whole way to close it down. And when you leave, you will go touch the guru's feet and walk out the door. So
symbolism.
Yeah, very, very lots and lots of symbolism there. And certainly when we talk about like what's our life path and purpose and stuff, I feel like that's a lot of foot imagery. Like military training emphasizes rigid foot positioning. Ballet training does too, obviously.
I was reading, like Thich Nhat Hanh said that as a Vietnamese monk, Buddhist monk, they would all line up their shoes in a very particular way. It was like, because that reflected your life path. It is so important to order. So anyway, that just occurred to me, that really does make sense.
Yeah, no. So Stephanie and I were talking as we were preparing for this. We were talking the other day. Like I used to live in Japan, and so I got we still take our shoes off when we come in that house. And but like I have to put my shoes left foot, right foot next to each other. Like they can't be backwards, or that it has to be in the right order. And I get rid of my socks that have holes in them now, because when you lived in Japan and you would go somewhere and take off your shoes and then realize, oh, I've got holes in my socks, this isn't good. And they're so I felt so loved in Japan, and everything there was so beautiful. I was like, I can't show up with these crappy socks when people are loving me so much. But I had to show up with better socks. The yeah, and even like authoritarian parenting styles often demand stillness and controlled movement, or religion will even like being still during prayer or communion. That I know my oldest son went to Japanese Montessori, and then like Japanese kids are really good at being still, and like my little blonde American kid was like doing this when they would all be standing in a row. Like he was not like did not have that wired into him as strongly as the Japanese kids did, which was really interesting to see. They're very good at, like, the little kids will even on the train sit very, very still, but that's part of their culture too. Okay, so feet. The reason to start with the feet more than anything, I think, is because your feet are the furthest part away from your head. Like, we all spend a lot of time in our heads, and we don't spend a lot of time in our feet. And people are overwhelmingly ungrounded. And your feet, and I have a slide to show this, are mapped in the very middle of your brain. Part of that's like for survival, because if you need to run away from danger, you need your feet. So they're gonna, you're not gonna, if you get bashed on the outside of the head, you might lose arm function, but you would still, the foot part of your brain is less likely to get damaged, so you could still escape danger. So it's well protected. And hold on here, and I will show you that slide. All of the okay. Here we go. Okay, so I did a right brain, left brain here, but I just mirrored the one image from Wikipedia. But you can see your feet are here in the center. The only thing more central are your genitals. And so this is also why we have foot fetishes, because your feet and genitals are mapped really closely together. And we'll do a little exercise today to show you the muscle connection between your feet and your pelvic floor. They're neurologically linked. They work very, very much together. And another reason to start at your feet. This is from an NPR article on mapping. They surveyed people about where they experience emotions. And if you look here, so the red areas are where people say they feel stimulated during the emotion, and the blue and black colors are where they feel deactivated. But you can see happiness here is a full body experience, goes all the way down to your feet. Anxiety has a little bit of foot activation, which makes sense because you want to run away. Love does too, because maybe you want to run toward that, but nothing. But happiness very clearly activates. People feel it in their feet. and we talk about, I think, Stephanie, isn't it a whole movie called Happy Feet? That's like a Pixar
Oh, I
thing.
think it was a cartoon, but it made, I'm old enough that I was thinking of Steve Martin and his little Happy Feet thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that we use that expression in our language. So happiness happens through our feet. We dance. And honestly, like the research would say, dancing is probably the most powerful nervous system healing, regulating thing that you can do.
Really?
Dancing and singing.
Oh, I knew that when you're anxious, if you hum or sing, that interrupts whatever the anxiety mechanism is. So that makes sense. I hadn't heard that about dancing, but that
Yeah,
lines up.
the research around dance is extraordinary. And I would even, and if you're not somebody that, like some religious traditions don't allow dance, but having some free flowing movement. Like I love, as a physical therapist and as like I love structured movement. Like I'm very good at structured movement. It's taken me a long time to learn to move in more organic, unstructured ways and give myself the freedom to do that. But there's absolute value to both. And the other reason that feet are really important is because they are closest to the earth. Like we think information comes in through our heads. I really think it comes up through our feet. Or that's really how we're designed. Your body is telling your brain. The science says your body is telling your brain what's happening. And in esoteric traditions, your feet are your intuition. And your spirituality, and they just hold lots and lots of wisdom. The best
I get
medium.
tension headaches. Like if I can take off my shoes and walk in grass, that really helps them go away, I found.
Yeah.
I hadn't
Shoes
thought
give
about
us.
the foot connection. I was thinking about electrons and being connected to the ground or maybe the security of Mother Earth. But yeah, what are your
Well, there's
thoughts?
all of that. Yeah, no, I think there's all of that too. And the it but your feet are very tied into your brainstem, like in a quite literally, because just like walking and things like that are brainstem mediated functions. Like you don't think about how you walk, you just go out and walk. You do, so you can think about other things while you walk. So like it's those automatic, it's a very automatic function. In like chi terms, they say there's the collective chi pool is maybe 10 feet below the earth. So you are going to tap into the collective consciousness, into the chi through your feet, into the collective life force that you pull that up. And if you're going to look at the way I like to think of it, in the way Pisces rules the feet and Aquarius rules the calves. And so your calves are shaped like the water bear's vessel, like a water vessel, an ancient vase. And so you pull in that Amrita, the nectar of the gods, through your feet, that connection with the universe, to come into your vessel in your calves, and it can keep moving up through your body from there. So we have a few activities to go through today. Before I go any further, does anyone have any questions? Does that make sense? So there's some good, like just hardcore physical structural reasons to start with your feet. And there's really good in esoteric systems, starting with your feet, I think is really important. And my book that I'm writing about, you can take the hero's journey, and the zodiac fits in perfectly to the hero's journey. And we all talk about starting with, it starts with that call to action, which is a very Aries thing. And Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. But really, we need to start with spirituality and go backwards through the hero's journey so that we have the stability within our systems to to move forward. We can't just keep going forward through the hero's journey. We end up getting burnt out. If we want sustainable energy, and the science would really really matches this. And I didn't pull up, I have statistics on that. If you give me a second here, because spirituality is here we go. Spirituality, the science shows that everything pales in comparison to spirituality when it comes to mental health. Spiritually strong adolescents are 35 to 75% less likely to experience clinical depression and 40 to 80% less likely to develop substance dependence or abuse. If your mother was spiritual, with or without being religious, you are super protected against mental health issues, 80% protected against depression. Being religious does not provide these protective benefits. It's like basically in the research, spirituality is your relationship with your inner authority, religion's your relationship with outer authority.
I love that so much. Because that makes sense why I was so depressed from such a young age. Because my parents were super religious, but not spiritual. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and there's more, having a good having strong spirituality is also associated with really good physical health. In the blue zones where people live to be over 100 years old, it's part of that as well.
Spirituality is connection to your inner authority.
Yes.
You said that the last one, our Zoom last month, didn't you? I'd forgotten about
well,
that.
and that's the thing. Like, to me, that's the biggest revolution that I think we could create is people really tapping into their inner authority. Because of this
religion
external
just
authority
robs you by making you outsource and ignore your intuition. Oh, dude,
absolutely,
this is huge. I mean, I feel halfway healed just like hearing this information. It's like, okay, it's taking it all back. It's all truly within you. We just need to connect, like realize that and trust it. Yeah.
Well, in most spiritual traditions, and even I will say, I can't put numbers to this, but I will say a significant number of extra canonical biblical books, texts, things that didn't get included in the Bible, all say that the answer is within. And
but
part of my understanding,
those had to be written out of the canon, because then the old white men couldn't control everybody if they had us believing that we could listen to ourselves.
Yep. And our answers are only as good as our questions. And sometimes so we'll start with actually we organized everything last time to have a kind of in thought, word, and deed, but to work backwards from that, to have a deed exercise, a thought exercise, and then a deed, a word, and then a thought. So actually, you know what? I'm going to make myself stick to that order rather than skipping around, because I'm not very good at following rules. And so if you have a soft cloth, for example, or a t-shirt, well, actually, before you even do that, just check in with your body and see where you are. Like, turn your head side to side, move your shoulders. Just feel how you're turning your trunk. You can even stand up and go side to side like this, and just see how far you're moving. You could stretch your calf. Okay, and then you can take your cloth, and I'm going to demonstrate quickly here, and then I'm going to go back and talk, but you can just start rubbing and like getting in between your toes and get in all the little nooks and crannies. You've got lots of little bones here that make lots of little divots, and you can get it on the bottom of your feet, on either side of your Achilles tendon. So spend a minute or two on each foot. And if you're, and then retest and see how you feel. And while you're doing that, I'm going to tell a story because I have had foot problems ever since Neptune entered Pisces in like 2009, 2010, something like that. And my foot is almost better as Neptune's getting ready to exit, and which is really bizarre. But I've broken my foot twice in the last 10 years, of my left foot twice. I've just had lots and lots and lots of plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis. I got one episode when I wouldn't break up with a tennis partner that I felt like was not respecting my time. She was always late. And I know that my body broke down and got plantar fasciitis because I wouldn't just say I didn't want to play with her anymore. And, but one of the things that I broke my foot in the fall of 2023 in France on the way to India. So I got to do India on crutches, which I don't necessarily recommend. It was a very valuable experience, but if you don't have to do it, don't. And but I ended up getting a lot of burning pain afterwards, and it was in both feet. And then that's total nervous system. That was not my foot having a problem. That was my brain in high protective mode over my feet. And the thing that really helped me the most was stabbing my foot with a fork. And so, because sharp is a different type of receptor than soft touch. And like hot is different than cold, like we have different receptors for these different things. If you want to try this, I think a more noxious stimulus can be a really interesting thing to do, kind of like walking on coals, like the Tony Robbins events as they do. But do not, like, this is not something you are not to harm yourself, to break your skin with this. This is just something, just giving your brain a different texture of information. Do not hurt yourself. Am I clear? This is my professional liability speaking. But yeah, so don't leave any marks long term, but you can, let's see if I can, have to take and just, just like it's a baked potato, and just kind of prick and see if your nervous system likes that better than a nice, gentle thing. If you have a lot of, or my observation on this is that people that have a lot of fire energy in their horoscopes like this kind of, like a little bit more of an intense stimulus. And you can see here, like my foot it was itchy the other night, which was just some old inflammation coming up, and I scratched it so hard I scratched the skin. Bad habit. But there's been a lot of stuff. My foot is more mobile than it's been in years. So like there's just stuff is really coming up, and I've been and we'll talk maybe at the end a little bit more about imagery. But yeah, then retest. Yep, Liz, like the Shakti mats. Yes, same thing. Something sharp, but you might need something sharp on the top of your foot, not just on the bottom. Just something to.
And what's the benefit? What are we looking for?
Are you looking for more range of motion? Okay. Maybe less anxiety, whatever it is that you're feeling. You want to feel a notch or two better, at least from that. But it will, I get clearer vision. Like I can take off my glasses and read better even after doing
really
that kind of stuff. I get clear. Yeah. And Aries rules the head, but Pisces is the fluid in the eyes. So foot stuff always gives me better vision. And I don't know, that's just me, maybe, but it's like, but everybody's different. You'll test and retest and see what works for you. But I also feel a little calmer after doing that. I could feel like my performance anxiety settle a little bit when I
feel like I can breathe deeper.
Yep.
I don't have a fork, but I'm stabbing myself. Well, not stabbing, but
Yeah.
using the sharp edge of this, and it
Yeah.
stings, but it's seriously kind of soothing.
Totally. I have this little thing has sharp thing on it for rolling on your face.
Like a microdermabrase thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And so you could use something like that too. My acupuncturist, when I was in a more acute round of foot things, gave me a little pointy hammer to like beat my my foot with. So really he really gave me a thing to like tell it this burning stuff isn't pain. Let me show you what pain is. But that's not really why he gave it, but that's at some level what it does. You lose people so that burning pain is one of those things that it goes with complex regional pain, what's called complex regional pain syndrome. It used to be called reflex sympathetic dystrophy. And those people with that kind of diagnosis can lose the ability to feel sharp, dull. Like I'm fortunate that I nipped this early enough that I had not lost the ability to feel sharp. So but we have different receptors for different kinds of pressures and textures and combinations of things. Like we don't have wetness receptors, but receptors combine to give us the experience of what wetness feels like, having your feet like being in the pool or being in the shower. Okay. And then let me have you, so now that you've had a little, gotten in your feet a little bit that way, you could even do some stomping. And I'll put this link in the chat. I do have a 40-day Sacred Stomp email series that if anyone is interested, yes, Sheena has done it and really likes it. If anybody's interested in that, I'll put the link in the chat that you can sign up. But stomping is good for your feet. But you can also I'm going to do this with my foot up here on the chair so you can see it, but just stomping your big toe, like trying to lift your big toe and leave the other ones down. And if you can do that in standing with both toes at the same time, it does take a little bit of coordination sometimes, but if you can get both of your big toes to go up and down at the same time, as you get coordinated, you'll start to feel your pelvic floor come into that. That you'll feel a little bit of like you're doing a Kegel as you come up, kind of, but without even really trying. And it's very hard to do with your feet not flat on something. So even if you're laying down, you might need to bend your knees so your feet are touching the mattress or whatever. But just try that. So that's like toe stomping. You can do some finger stomping with it, because this is if you can coordinate some of this with your toes, that's a nice way you're getting a lot of time perception and processing rewiring in your brain, which is the root of all mental health, neurological, and orthopedic diagnoses. Okay. But sometimes that just getting the big toe thing can be hard for you. Like who had their other toes trying to grip and help along? Yeah. So it's okay. It gets better as you practice. You can isolate the toes. All right. How's everybody feeling? Good. All right. I'd love
I feel like I can breathe deeper.
Awesome. Yeah. No, you will get changes in far-reaching places because you're grounding your own energy. You're grounding into yourself. Like when we ground, and we could do a whole separate thing on this sometime. Like, do not ground into the earth, ground into yourself. Try that sometime. Just make it like, I have a guided way to teach that, but grounding into your, like we are ideally grounded into rooted in ourselves. And everybody's body that I've touched, because I have a way of, asking everybody's body, yes, no, it tells me that they want their first chakras centered in their ankle joints. And sometimes they're like retracted up like blinds. Got to pull the blinds back down or get all of that, get it to come all the way down so that you're grounded. So now you can ask your feet, how do they say yes and how do they say no? You can, and we did this last time for those of you that came, but if you like ask your feet and like have them on the floor or up flat on the mattress ideally, and say like, say something is true. So like I could say, I'm currently in New Orleans, Louisiana, or my name is Melanie. Named it usually works, but not always. So sometimes you have to figure out but something really objective, like I am in New Orleans, is an easy yes. And what happens to me is my feet like mush into the ground, like my arches kind of collapse, like I get this extra downward pressure. And if I say something like drinking bleach is good for me, like my toes will literally curl up and my foot comes off the ground.
So that's how lie detectors work. Like it measures your biometrics in that way.
Well, it measures differently, but this is, but you can, right. But your body is saying yes. You have the somatic yes, no in different parts of, anywhere. And you can test whatever body part or system you want. But when people are in their heads a lot, and I will say I am super wired for this. They have lots of planets in Aries. I mean, you guys know I'm super heady about things that I do. If I need to make a decision on something, I will very often ask my feet, like toast for breakfast, oatmeal for breakfast, whatever it is, like blue shirt, wear the blue shirt today, wear the black shirt today. I'll let my feet make the decision so that I'm getting out of my head.
And how do your feet respond?
So my feet, so yes, it's always like a flattening of my feet, and no is a
clenching,
curling, a clenching. Yeah.
Oh, that's fast.
But yours might be different. Like you don't have to, yours could look different. That's what mine looks like. Might find.
I love these kind of concrete ways to tap in and figure out what your higher self is trying to tell you through your body. I feel like that's what it is.
Oh, totally. But in here, I'll give you like an example of where, like, sometimes you have to, sometimes you have to call bullshit on yourself at times, because your answer is only as good as your question. It's like, do I want oatmeal for breakfast? Do I want oatmeal for breakfast today? Do I want oatmeal for breakfast right now? Do I want oatmeal for breakfast in an hour? You could get so you can be very specific. The first time I broke my foot, we had a construction situation in the backyard, and my dog leapt out after a feral cat, and I went out to save the cat and forgot that the deck was not attached to the house, so the step off was much deeper than it normally was. So I landed on the outside of my foot and shattered my 5th metatarsal. And after it happened, my husband's getting ready for work, and I was like, I'm fine. Like, I don't, because my body was like, I was like, is it broken? And my body was like, no, it's not broken. And about an hour and a half later, I was like, Melanie, what would you tell somebody if you were like seeing somebody else in this situation? What would you tell them? And, because I had landed so hard, I hit on my hip really hard, and my foot was swelling and black and blue. And if I was seeing somebody else in that situation, I would have told them to go get a fucking x-ray. And so I just had to have that reality check with myself. And so I went and got an x-ray, and sure enough, it was really broken, but my body, well, I don't think it was like a little shock, or maybe, or or maybe there wasn't anything oh, I'm not broken. Maybe it was divinely orchestrated, or I don't know. It just but I think if I really think it was just, I was in shock. So I wasn't getting really accurate information. And sometimes you need, or I wasn't in my body even from, that maybe I had even dissociated,
That makes
just
sense.
just because of the shock of the, the impact and everything. And of course, this was like 3 days before my husband was going on a 2-week business trip, and my kids were like 11 and 12. And like, I mean, they were really, really useful, amazingly useful for the ages that they were. But like, it was a lot, and like to figure out in that moment. And so, yeah, like, and I do think, so just know that sometimes you do need to give yourself a little no nonsense reality check, or take that third person perspective. Like, what would I tell someone, or make sure you are in your body as you're, before you're asking these questions. Because if you're dissociated, or, and I'll talk a little bit about that maybe in a second, because the neurology of that is super interesting. But, just like, it's a language that you develop with your body that you just need to get to know. And because I knew the language with my body, and I also knew what was happening, like, I had these things like, oh, my body's saying my foot's not broken. My foot looks pretty darn broken, and felt that way too. And so I was trying to reconcile these things, and it's like I just hadn't, the shock of it was just
A good friend of mine, she's a physician, and she's working through stuff with her evangelical family, and really dysfunctional, and she knows it. But she had her left foot, something on her left foot, this crazy inflammation that came on all of a sudden. And she's like, I don't understand. There's no puncture wound. Like, she knew all the medical terms, but I said, what's going on with your mom? Because I knew that in Chinese medicine, the left side of your body means like a female sort of related, the right side is male. But she was like, we had a big fight. She was being really intrusive. I was trying to stand up for myself, and I just ended up backing down. And I was like, what if you went back and, were able to be a little more assertive? And she did it in her, whatever was presenting as a foot infection. She's like, it's crazy how it disappeared. So, I mean, that sounds nuts, except I feel like it says something that she's a doctor, and this showed up for her in this way, and then resolved itself.
Yeah.
After, she got her footing, I guess.
No, there's always a spiritual underpinning to the physical dysfunction. And that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to treat the physical dysfunction. My fracture needed to be treated. Some infections, if they get, certainly if they're not getting better on their own, need to be treated. Or at least you have to keep the wound clean. You can't just ignore it. But there is, like, when I broke my foot, I had been working on stillness, and my first thought as soon as I fell was, I guess I haven't been still enough. I had to break my foot to be more still. And
Getting your attention,
yeah. And I've had, in esoteric terms, like, every time I've ever had a past life reading, it's been some terrible foot drama, like Chinese foot binding, being a sex worker and having my Achilles tendon cut so I couldn't run away. Like, it's always just terrible, terrible, terrible. And the person never wants to tell me what they've actually perceived because it's so terrible, but it's always about feet. And bones carry our oldest memories. Bones, rocks, and crystals, metaphysically, carry our oldest memories. And certainly bones after we die are what last. Elephants will carry around bones of their ancestors after the body is decomposed. And I think my part of what I storied for myself is that I needed, like, those old memories that were literally tripping me up to leave. And so the fracture gave those a chance to be released that they couldn't otherwise have.
I think it's so interesting that phrases such as tripping, this is tripping me up, like corresponds to the body part, like to lose your footing, to like when, I'm tearing my hair out, because when I'm stressed, like during the pandemic, my hair was just coming out in clumps in the shower, and same doctor friend is like, oh, it's happening to everyone. It's like a stress thing, literal pain in the neck. Just all those expressions seem to
they always match. And I will tell you that if you treat I'll give you an example of how I've just done this for myself, but I'm a huge fan of treating the metaphor.
Yeah.
And the body part always does match up, like the expression. Like that is really a huge clue as to where the dysfunction is. Like if you're not getting footing, like I would even, if you don't feel like you have good footing, I would even consider that a vestibular issue, that you might need some vestibular exercises because you just feel off balance in your life at large.
Like vestibular, like inner ear.
Inner ear, yeah.
Where your balance is located.
Yeah. So like but you can I use those to clue me in with my clients always, always, always. I recently had 2 Reiki sessions for my problematic foot, and from 2 different people, and they each gave me really beautiful information. One told me that there was deep sadness that was like ancestral, that was in my foot, in my right foot. And I have an ancestor ritual that a Vedic astrologer gave me, a little prayer that I try to do it twice a day, but I put some rice and black sesame seeds in my palm and right palm, and put a coin on top. And I have some special water that I use, and I say this offering is, put a little bit of water on top, and say that this offering is for my deceased ancestors on my mother's side, 12 generations back, my deceased ancestors on my father's side, 12 generations back. Your sins are forgiven. Be at peace. Go into the light. And please remember to bless me right here and now. And I added into that, because of the deep sadness, I said, your deep sadness is released. You're free of, I now include a line about that. And it has been remarkable how much different my foot has been since I started doing that. The next Reiki session I had from somebody different was, she told me it felt like there was a vestigial webbed foot in like at a little platypus foot. Platypus was my word, but a webbed foot inside of my foot that was like tied up with fishing line. Same thing as all the past, like same imagery as all the past life readings that I get. And so I worked with like just imagining that I was like cutting the fishing line and expanding, and I'll show you. I even did some art around it, and it turned into, you can't really see, there's my foot underneath it. And then platypus feet are really cool if you haven't looked them up before. But anyway, so this was my interpretation of it. And my like working with the art has been really, really helpful, like treating the metaphor, getting my little webbed foot to spread out. So I'm a big, big fan of treating the metaphor. And I've got tons of stories about even how I do it physically.
I love that. Someone just commented in the chat that she feels like the rug has been pulled out from under her. And that's just, it's literal because that's what it literally does to us spiritually, emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very Uranus kind of signature. But it's like, well, maybe you have a magic carpet.
Oh,
so that you can ride the magic carpet.
Reframe. I really like that. Yeah, you can regain it, like just reclaim that carpet. And yeah. Wow. That's really helpful.
And maybe there are some vestibular exercises and some proprioceptive thing, that there are other things in there that you need to know where your feet are. Like when the first time I did a drawing exercise around this as a student of the Center for Mind Body Medicine, I was at the beginning of my foot problem journey, and they have you draw. So they would do this series of 3 drawings, and I had not drawn feet on myself or anything in any of the initial drawings. And then but after the week of mind body medicine, at the end, I did have feet, and that was one of the biggest differences that I noticed. It was like, okay, so I'm really like I think that my lack of being grounded was showing up in the art, and the art will tell you what is going on.
Message from your subconscious.
Absolutely, art is just magical in that way. All right, Stephanie, do you want to talk about breadcrumbs?
Yeah, well, we started talking about it last time we met, the first time we met. I am, it's hard. I don't have the aptitude that Melanie does to be able to just have so much information. I mean, the way you can keep it straight, I need like little action steps. And so I love like distilling down what you're getting into something that I can just kind of simply apply. And so what we were doing, like last time, I had 3 action steps for flipping my negativity. Like, just what if I pictured the exact opposite of my anxiety, that, and felt that as being the reality. Just like, what if, why not? Treat yourself. I don't have to be so anxious and on guard all the time. So if I can follow little breadcrumbs with my feet to an action step to be able to be less anxious, this is speaking my language. And my rising is Pisces, so I feel that way into a little bit. I identify with the feet situation, but just having something really tangible, such as breadcrumbs, a trail. I need a trail to follow, because I will swirl or spiral. Same thing, right? Like I feel myself like starting to spin out a little bit, just dissociate. Cat's scratching on her new post. I'm very glad she's not scratching on the sofa. That's what I got that thing for. Okay. So did you make a graphic at all? We talked about it, but
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. I just did a little, hang on here. Let me. So I made.
Oh, here we go.
This.
Yes. See, this is my speed, the 3 steps, like first breadcrumb. If I can envision where I am right now and kind of be able to zoom out, that's so helpful for me to go, all right, just this isn't going to be this way forever, but let's just get an objective look at where I am right now. So that's my first breadcrumb. I like to skip to the final breadcrumb and picture what my ideal is. Where do I actually want to be? What do I want to feel? And then the middle, the second breadcrumb, is my little algebra X that I'm trying to find. How can I get to that final destination? What can I do in between here and there?
So I turn this, if it helps anyone, into a little graphic, like where you are right now, what your goal is, and then you could label the breadcrumbs, or what would be a breadcrumb that would give you a clue that you're on your path.
I wrote down now, how, and then goal.
Yeah.
But related to the feet, just being able to have that agency that I didn't have growing up in a high control religion situation. They took our agency from us. And so realizing that when I feel like the rug is getting pulled out from under me, hey, I've got a rug. This is my rug, and I'm going to claim this rug. I can do it. I've been told I can't. And they were lying to me. So here's what I can do to reclaim my rug. That kind of stuff just really turns it around for me personally. I just puts a little bit of hope, injects some hope into me when I'm spiraling.
Well, and if we think about the breadcrumbs, like, because that's certainly what saved Hansel and Gretel. You know, they left a trail of breadcrumbs through the forest, which is how they got away from the, I can't remember if they called her a witch or a hag or whatever, the, you know. And there are a lot of similarities, like when we start spinning out. I don't know that we always dissociate, but there's, you know, but dissociation has a specific neural signature that has a lot of overlap with epilepsy, with spiritual experiences, and with the brains that they've studied of psychic mediums that have been validated for their abilities. So consider that the difference between somebody who spins out and somebody that knows what's the future holds or what's possible is their ability to, like, you know, like a medium is going to dissociate too. And I will tell you, I've treated a lot of mediums, like they have incredible amounts of trauma that they've just learned how to leverage very well. That you leave the body, but you come back with information. It's a reconnaissance mission. So you complete the loop rather than just spinning out and staying out. And so spinning out isn't, I mean, it's always good to come back to your body. You can use the yes, no, or you can rub your feet, get yourself back in your body. But I've been working with some of my clients in some really fun ways recently on how to leverage, like, okay, you're spinning out, but let's use that and let's complete the loop. And then you don't spin out so much. Like now they know what to do with it. And so it's just another way of using your intuition. You know, but certainly in like epilepsy and spiritual experiences, like you have an out of body experience very often, you know, or like the mediums will go, you know, go somewhere else or see another dimension kind of thing, have this altered perception. But your right temporal parietal junction is common to all of those experiences. So, but when you can complete that loop, then it's not as scary. You bring it back to yourself, you ground it, and it doesn't end up just hanging out there. Theo, regarding your calf cramp, also it is, yeah, calves are like agility, you know, our ability to, or like and even where we like fly our freak flag, like how we uniquely walk through the world. But those life agility things show up a lot in your calves. Before we wrap up, I meant to say this at the beginning, but I want to make sure that I'm going to send everybody emails about this. I am doing Mary Magdalene, or really two kind of Mary Magdalene retreats. One that's going to build into Neurology of Miracles retreat in Nashville in July. And I'm aspiring to bring Stephanie out for that as well. And and I'm taking a group of people to France in September. So if you're interested, I'm just putting that on your radar for yourselves or anyone that you know that might be interested. And I will am putting the final touches on my heretical healing program that will start most likely at the end of April. So stay tuned. And because you're on this list, you'll get special bonuses. All right. Does anyone want to unmute and share anything now that we're
Well, this is Cynthia. Yeah, there's just so, man, it's just comes flooding in all these things I grew up with in the public, not public school, the Catholic school system, and with the nuns, and the biggest one that still stands out as we're talking now that I made the connection, because I'm having trouble with this left side of, between my shoulder blades almost, and I had a memory once when somebody was working on me, massaging me when I was having really severe pains back there, that I remember this nun hitting me in the back, because during our ending prayer, one of my friends, this was in 7th grade, one of my friends, his brother was a twin, and he always made me laugh, and we had connected eyes, and so we were doing this, and the nun caught me doing this. He didn't get punished or anything. She drew me to the front of the room and hit me till I was down on my knees and that part of my back. And now I'm sitting here and it's like, oh my God, I wonder if that could still be thinking about this. Anyway, it's really weird. It's really, and now in this later in my life, it's even coming up stronger, the memories and stuff. So yeah, thanks for exploring all this.
I'm so sorry that there's no words for that stuff. Being these helpless children in the care of religious figures, it just I've heard that our memories will surface as we are healthier and more secure because we're in a space where we can handle it. We had to dissociate, and I don't know if that's any kind of silver lining or reassurance to have it surface, but it means you're in a stable place more so than ever. And as we release it, it heals. You feel the pain. It's like shrapnel surfacing, and we pull it out and it really hurts, but then you heal some more. And later more shrapnel will surface because a big bomb went off in us, each of us, a long time ago. So that, that I don't think the shrapnel will ever stop surfacing as long as we're alive, but knowing that feeling it is what heals, like that makes me feel like there's a little bit of purpose to it, and to know that relief does come after you feel it. I wish I could go back in time and take you out of that situation. That's so tragic. Poor little Cynthia was just having a moment with the funny guy. It's awful.
Yeah, I've known Cynthia a long time, and nobody does the work more than Cynthia does.
Wow.
So, but healing is very orbital. Like it's not, it's not linear. Like we come back to the same points in different ways. And so we just, and I think you're just always learning something new or you have an opportunity to have some new awareness. And my personal favorite expression around that, the reason you like having more mindfulness and meditation and somatics and ritual and practices, what it does is it gives you the altitude to go deep.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can have some altitude over the situation, and that's really what happened to me, what I described when I broke my foot, I was able to go, oh, like, okay, maybe I was dissociated, maybe I was in shock, but I was also able to have some altitude and be like, yeah, no, this isn't right. I need to go get an x-ray. So that's
altitude. Feels like that's a better way of saying when I was like zooming out. I think I like altitude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like your dissociation is so specific neurologically that like I'm not convinced. I think dissociation gets overused. I'm sure that there's like a subclinical level of it for sure that happens, but like altitude, the gift of it is altitude, that you can kind of see, hover over the situation and see what's happening.
The gift of it. That's a really nice reframe as well.
And just you all, talking about the pain in your body. Well, why do I forget that? Wait, maybe that pain is about something else than just getting stuck on the pain and, oh, I wish it would go away or take a hot bath or something. And so thanks. Yeah, that was big, just to be reminded of that. Hey,
Yeah. No, our bodies store incredible memories. And Shelley, I feel you. I couldn't even watch the SNL sketch about it because that was so triggering for me. Like, I'm not there. I can't, like, it was just,
Sketch from the 50th anniversary.
no, from last night where
Oh, I didn't see it.
they did a whole Trump Vance Zelensky
Oh, did they?
conversation. Yeah, yeah, that was their opening skit. And yeah, it's like I can't stomach it yet. So I am there with you in all of that. And because it did bring up so much of how I felt like that was what adults were to me growing up in many
Yes.
situations.
I mean, I was constantly told I wasn't grateful enough. And so when I heard him saying that, it just brought back a lot. And I was like, I'm sure I'm not the only one feeling this.
Yeah. Yeah. I will get to where I can watch it because I think leaning into some of that stuff is important for me to go like, okay, I'm not going to give it that power over me.
Exactly.
But it's also okay to be angry. But yes, good. I'm glad, Shelley, that helped you, the inner outer authority differentiation. But that's really what it like when the outer authority is not in line with our inner authority, that's when things are really I will say often uh we will have some kind of output, some kind of expression of things, and that might look like pain or getting an immune reaction, um, or it might look like uh, erratic behavior from someone, or aggressive behavior, or rolling over and not being able to fight, or being able to, kind of being an emotional contortionist, right? So there's uh, lots of ways that can show up. But when the energy can move up, and this is what we're going to do through this whole series is work up through the body. So we started at the feet. When the energy can move up, then it's less likely to move out in a negative way.
Love that.
Yes, Shelley, it was. It was a masterclass in abuse for sure. And that authoritarianism and like hijacking the narrative. Yeah, I could go on and on. I was a Navy wife for 20 years. This is not why we did that. It's like to be right here, right now. So it's been really hard I would say even over the last 10 years, like I've really had, like in 2016, I really had to was forced to reckon with my, uh, like regret or like lost time that I felt, like because I felt so betrayed at the national level personally, just for how we lived our lives and what our goals were and our intentions were in serving our country and what I sacrificed, and what my husband sacrificed. And so it's this time I'm way more healed around it, but it's like it's intense when to resolve the collective trauma and to have the authoritarian and stuff triggered. So, and I could talk on and on, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time too. All right. How about some happy feet moving? We'll end with some happy feet. Move your feet in a way that makes you happy. Like I'm just kind of stomping. Like wiggle your toes, like play the toe pianos, walk on your heels, walk on your toes.
I remember in like 9th grade, we would all do the Roger Rabbit in the bus stop. And I've been thinking about that recently. I'm like, I think I forgot how to do that. So that can be my new, my new habit.
Totally. Yeah. A lot of, you can before I go out and speak a lot, I like to shimmy side to side, like heel toe, heel toe. I also like the church ladies,
Her
dance
little,
from like her little like superiority dance, you know,
it's
that's
kind of
like
like,
a
I
little
kind of think of
shuffle
it as
kind
Mick
of thing.
Jagger.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. So, but like you move your feet in happy ways, it'll make your brain happy. And if you need, I'll give you one other like little happy tip. I think I did this last time. If you hold a pen in your mouth, it activates this, it makes your brain think you're smiling and will make you feel better, even if you don't want to. You can think about that.
Because I feel like I'm an Enneagram 4. I feel like I'm betraying myself if I'm smiling when I don't really want to, you know? So this
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. You know, you're going to think about the political ambush on Friday. try to take some of the charge out of it. All right. Well, we're so grateful you all showed up on a Sunday. I know it's getting into spring, and I'm going to go see if I can catch the end of the day parades. And if I love the night parades are my favorite. So that's go out in a couple hours for that for sure.
Good. No, I'm so glad to see everyone here.
Yeah. No, thank you for showing up, and let us know, like, actually share a little, like, if you don't mind sharing in the chat, what's your favorite, like, what'd you get out of today, or what was the highlight for you? What are you going to take with you? Oh, awesome. Writing on my magic carpet. I love it.
That's so good. That's what I got out of this. Well, one big thing.
Yep. Happy feet, happy feet. Take care of your feet. Love, love, love your feet. Yes. National. Yes, May. Reach out to me via email. I'd be happy to give you my Calendly link to talk about Nashville as well. We could have a little chat. Yep. Grounding into yourself. We could do that maybe when we, I'll make a little note. Maybe when we do, or up or more around the pelvis area, we'll do the grounding into yourself exercise. Yeah, authority assignment. If we had more people in our inner authority, we would not be seeing this outer authority thing that's happening. Our reality would be way
That's
different.
what's so infuriating. Like these people are just rolling over. I think that's what we're responding to at the core. Just like, seriously?
Yep.
Thank you, Melanie. Like everything you say is just, I love the new perspective, and it's so scientific. It makes it extra compelling. So thanks for your research.
Yeah, thank you. We're not doing anything new because all these things have been around
it's
forever and ever.
So thank you for breaking it down.
Right, but at large, you know, like but yeah, treat your. Oh, did you like the fork, Shelley? Good. Like who liked the fork? Who responded? Like I even brought my nice pearl-handled fork that my mother gave me. This is her luncheon set because she recently acquired a dinner set. So then I got the pearl-handled luncheon set. So this is like extra mother line healing to prick my foot with my fancy forks.
She's at work right now.
Yeah, do not hurt yourself with your fork, and don't hurt anyone else with it either. But all right, thank you all. We'll see you next month.
Bye.